Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would share all of the books that I DNF'd this year. Obviously, it's not the end of the year and there is a chance for me to DNF another book or two or three, not setting any limits for myself. But yes, I am a big fan of not finishing books that I'm not enjoying, or maybe I'll pick them up again, maybe I won't. I'm just going to go through all of the books that I DNF'd this year. I actually do have one that I DNF'd right at the end of December, on December 27th, 2020, and then all of the rest are from this year. So I will be popping in pictures because I do not have these books anymore. I DNF'd them and took them to the book exchange or donated them to my library. So these are gone. The first one I will talk about is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This one has a 4.6 star rating with 168,000 ratings. So this is definitely more of a me thing than a book thing. But I know this is a very dark book. It has grooming in it. It's a student-teacher relationship that happened, and I just couldn't get into the writing. I didn't really care. It was kind of slow, and I wasn't a fan of the writing, and I just thought, I'm not going to push myself through this right now. And I haven't picked it up since December of 2020. So it's been a year, you guys. I'm not going to read this book. The next one is one that sounded really, really good. But again, with the writing, I just couldn't get into it. The book is called These Violent Delights by 𝒔𝒂𝒓. And this one has a 3.96 star rating with 3,632 ratings. So I don't think that many people even know about this book. That is what the cover looks like. But yeah, I DNF'd it. It's about these two guys, Paul and Julian, when they meet at university as freshmen in their early 1970s Pittsburgh. They're drawn to one another. One is a talented artist and the other one is wealthy, effortlessly charming. But I am not the only one that didn't have fun with this one. But yeah, I just decided to go ahead and DNF it. The next one was Unseen Messages by Pepper Winters. This has a 4.21 star rating with almost 6,000 ratings. I love Pepper Winters. I have read other books by her. This one is a chunker. It's like this big, and it's about, I think it's like where you're missing messages, you're missing the clues that are leading you in a certain direction. I couldn't get into it. There's a message for everything, from handwritten to verbal, seen and unseen. Messages exist all around us. But what if you don't see? What if you don't understand? What if, by ignoring the message, your life is never the same again? So yeah, I gave this a little bit. I stopped on page 53 and I just never had any interest to pick it up again. The next one, The Survivors by Jane Harper. This one has a 3.77 star rating with 62,000 ratings. And this is one that I picked from Book of the Month. I ended up DNFing this back in February. I said I read the first 25 pages twice, and I couldn't force myself to do it a third time. Might return to this one later. I'm not returning to that one later. So I did read, like I said, the first 25 pages twice, and I still didn't understand what happened in those 25 pages. So I felt like I was in a time loop with this one. The next one, The Dating Plan by Sarah Dessy. I was really looking forward to this. It's a enemies to lovers. It has the cutest pastel-y cover. I made it to page 46 on this one. And I was reading it physically, so I thought that I might return to it when I got the audiobook. But the beginning was very I don't know, the only way I can think to describe it is it didn't really get into the action. It was kind of info dumpy, and for a romance, I've never really got that vibe before. I also tried Black Chalk by Christopher Yates. This has a 3.22 with 9,457 ratings. But if you look up any dark academia recommendations like lists, videos, whatever, people always recommend this one. It is so weird, you guys. The writing is just weird. It's unlike anything I've ever read. It's like stream of consciousness, but it's like the person that you're like in their consciousness like isn't in the right state of mind. Like something is wrong with them. But it is about these group of friends that went to Oxford together that used to play this game where you do these dares. The stakes grew higher and higher, the dares more personal and more humiliating, finally evolving into a vicious struggle with unpredictable and tragic results. Now, 14 years later, the remaining players must meet again for the final round. I also tried Cracked Up to Be by Courtney Summers. I wanted to love this one. It's another like academia type setting. This one is YA. It has a 3.74 with almost 18,000 ratings. I know this is some people's favorite Courtney Summers book. It's about a girl named Parky Fadley who isn't so perfect anymore. She quit the cheerleading squad. She dumped her perfect boyfriend and she's failing at school. Her parents are on a constant suicide watch and her counselors think she's playing games. Okay, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I am keeping this. It is on my shelf. It's not on my TBR per se. I put it over on my other shelves because that's an eventually one day situation. I stopped on page 154, but obviously this is a very beloved series or like group of short stories. It has a 4.29 star rating with 269,000 ratings. So if you read Sherlock Holmes, you're bound to love it, at least according to Goodreads. I have a really pretty edition of it. I made it, 154 pages and I was like, okay, I've had enough for now. I also tried Cheat Day by 𝒍𝒊𝒏𝒌𝒔. I picked this one up because of Jacqueline. She had talked about it on my podcast. It was one of her most anticipated releases of 2021. And she got an early copy. I sent for an early copy because we were going to like read it together and stuff. She really liked this one. I ended up stopping on page 113 and it took me a while to get to that page 113. I really was not enjoying it. It has a 3.21 with 1,000 ratings. So I don't think a lot of people will even know about that book. Read Me by Leo Benedictus. I tried to read this for one of my vlogs that I was doing, like short thrillers or something like that. It was completely insufferable after 14 pages. I just couldn't do it to myself anymore. I said, this was insufferable for 14 solid pages. I'm going to save these moments of my life and DNF this train wreck. Okay, so that has a 2.97 with 739 ratings. So a lot of people aren't even reading it. Thank goodness. The Wingspan of Severed Hands. It only has 86 ratings, but it has a 4.42 stars. This is one of those horror novellas that I tried, could not get into it for the life of me. It's literary horror and I do not like literary, so I do not like literary horror. I also tried listening to Danny's Mom by Eileen Wolf. I was listening to this, I think it was on Audible or something like that. I forget where I was listening to it. It's a novel about a grief-stricken mother who launches a one-woman campaign against bullying in a volatile high school where she works. She returns to her job as a high school guidance counselor shortly after her son Danny is killed in a winter car accident. And, things go on from there. I couldn't get into the story. The audiobook was terrible. I didn't have the physical book, so I was just like, whatever. Now the next one, 𒒂💏💏, I actually got an ARC copy of, and I DNF'd this one at page 51. The writing style wasn't my favorite. It's more of a character-driven story than a plot-based story. And I mentally, at that time when I was reading it, needed something like easier to digest. It's getting great reviews though. It got great reviews. It has a 3.79 with almost 3,000 ratings. So not that many people have read it. That's interesting. The Friendship List by Susan Mallory. I DNF'd this at page 37. The writing was just like mediocre and I wasn't like pulled into the story. The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I tried this last year when I got it, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to save it for Halloween for like this year. So I tried it around Halloween this year. And I don't remember what page I DNF'd it on, but the writing was just like too historical fiction-y for me and I couldn't get into it. Same thing with Hour of the Witch by 𝒑𝒂𝒏𝒌𝒔. Is that how you say the last name? Both of those I tried during Halloween this year, and they were both very much, I think if you like one, you would like the other type thing. And then my most recent DNFs were The Kitchen Front by Jennifer Ryan. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I had it on my end of the year TBR and I started reading it. I don't know what page I made it to. I didn't make a note of that. Yeah, I didn't. It has an interesting premise about these different women from all walks of life during World War II competing in this BBC radio show called The Kitchen Front, where they have to use rations and make these recipes, and then they get to be a co-host on this show. It had the recipes in the book. I thought it was such an interesting premise, but again, it's historical fiction, and that's a genre that I really don't like. I mean, I have 3 of them back to back to back, but I mean, there is like the occasional one that I'll love. I loved Malibu Rising. I loved Daisy Jones and the Six. I loved The Dream Daughter. I have a few more historical fictions on my shelf, particularly The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, which someone that does read historical fiction commented on my video and said that they hated that book. So I'm really worried. I also have Mary Jane on there. I'm trying to look. Yeah, so I definitely do have like a few more historical fictions on my shelf. But I'm thinking after I get through what I've got, depending on what happens, I might have to say bye-bye to historical fiction. And the last one that I have is something that I DNF'd on November 28th. I DNF'd it at chapter 7. The writing wasn't working for me, and then I started reading reviews, because sometimes if I'm not enjoying it, I'm like, okay, does it get good on page like 90, or does it get good on page 50? Like maybe I could push myself there. But I was already at page 70 and I had already struggled to get to chapter 7. So I just wasn't interested in continuing anymore, and the reviews were not that great for this one. We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. That was a Book of the Month pick. So I have some Book of the Month picks on here too, so like The Dating Plan, The Survivors. Even my Dark Vanessa, I think, was an old Book of the Month pick. I mean, my personal copy wasn't, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I do keep a list of the books that I DNF on my Goodreads account, and sometimes I try to write like little notes of like why, but the main reasons I will DNF a book is if it is too info dumpy and not interesting in the beginning, if the writing is just something that is completely not for me, if it's super heavily character focused and there's absolutely no plot, I'm probably going to DNF it. And those are all of my DNFs this year. It's actually not that many when you think about me reading over 150 books this year. So I do plan to do an end of the year wrap up here where I talk about the best and worst books I read this year. I'm also doing a fun episode with my friend Jordan from Sorry Booked Solid. That's her YouTube channel name. I'll have her linked down below. But we're going to be doing a podcast with our best and worst of the year. We're going to talk about some of our reading stats, and we're going to do like fun bookish superlatives. So yeah, that will be over on my podcast. You can check the link in the description. It will take you right over to my podcast. That episode comes out on December 26th, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, go ahead and give the podcast a follow so you don't miss any new episodes. Also, my Patreon link is down below, and you can get behind the scenes, bonus episodes, all of that stuff. Join the Discord. So yeah, anyway, check the description box for fun links down there. And yeah, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again in another video very soon. Bye guys.